The sun bled across the horizon in streaks of molten gold, burning the edges of the endless prairie. Dust hung low, a ghostly haze stirred by the restless wind. Somewhere in the distance, a lone coyote howled, a sound swallowed almost immediately by the vast, open sky. Cole Mason sat in the saddle, his worn leather boots digging into the stirrups, eyes scanning the horizon. He was a man built for the frontier, broad-shouldered, sun-leathered skin, and a face that told stories of long nights and hard trails. His horse, Rust, a chestnut with a white blaze down its nose, shuffled impatiently, snorting clouds of dust. Cole had heard about the 1,000 ranch from an old prospector in Dead Man's Gulch, a plot of land abandoned for years, too wild for most folk to settle, cheap enough to tempt any desperate soul. And Cole, down to his last few dollars after a string of bad luck in a silver mine, fit the bill. When he finally rode up to the rundown homestead, it looked like a skeleton of a dream. The fences were broken, the barn sagged like a weary old man, and the wind whistled through the cracks in the wooden walls. But Cole didn't flinch. There was something about this land, something raw and promising. He swung down from Rust and let the reins slacken. His boots crunched over gravel and dry grass as he approached the barn. And that's when he heard it. A faint whimper, high-pitched and trembling, coming from the shadows inside. Cole squinted into the dim light, his hand instinctively hovering near the revolver at his hip. But this wasn't a man's growl or a snake's hiss. This was something smaller, something terrified. A pair of eyes, golden and wide, peeked out from beneath a pile of hay. A wolf pup, no bigger than a loaf of bread, trembled, its thin body shivering from hunger or fear. "Well, I'll be damned," Cole muttered, kneeling down slowly, careful not to scare it away. The pup's ears flicked, and its tail curled between its legs. "Hey there, little fella. Don't worry, I ain't gonna hurt ya," Cole said softly. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a scrap of dried meat. The pup's nose twitched, and after a moment of hesitation, it edged forward, sniffing the offering before devouring it with a crunch that made Cole chuckle. Cole knew he shouldn't keep it. It wasn't a dog, and the law of the West wasn't kind to wild animals. But something about those eyes, so full of trust and desperation, tugged at his heart like a lasso. By sundown, Cole had patched up the barn as best as he could and made a bed of straw for the pup, who had already begun to follow him around like a shadow. Rust watched the pair curiously, snorting as if to say, "This is your problem now, friend." Night fell fast on the prairie. The moon rose like a silver coin, casting long, cold shadows across the ranch. Cole sat on the porch with his rifle across his knees, listening to the distant sounds of coyotes and the whispering wind. He knew that owning this land meant danger. Outlaws often roamed the frontier, and the nearest town, Silver Creek, was a 2-day ride through bandit country. But for the first time in years, Cole felt a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe he could carve out a life here. Then came the sound of hooves. Not one, but several, pounding through the dry grass. Cole's eyes narrowed. Visitors at this hour weren't usually friendly. He grabbed Rust's reins and nudged him closer to the edge of the porch, peering into the darkness. 4 riders emerged from the horizon, their silhouettes tall and menacing. One of them raised a lantern, the light flickering over the barrels of rifles. "Cole Mason?" the lead rider called, voice rough like gravel. "That's me," Cole replied cautiously. "Who wants to know?" The rider swung his lantern closer, revealing a man with a jagged scar across his cheek and a hat pulled low over his eyes. "Name's Jed Callahan. Heard you've got a new piece of property. Thought maybe it was time we paid you a visit." Cole's hand went to his revolver. "Property's mine, Jed. Ain't nobody paying me nothing." Jed grinned, revealing yellowed teeth. "Well, we're not here to pay. We're here to claim what we want." The standoff was brutal and silent, save for the whistling wind. Cole's eyes flicked down to the barn, where the pup's ears perked up at the threat. He tightened his grip on the gun. Outlaws didn't care about wolf pups, but Cole did, and if Jed Callahan thought he was leaving with this ranch, or anything else, he had another thing coming. Gunfire erupted under the starry sky, echoes bouncing across the prairie. Dust and gun smoke mingled as Rust bolted, rearing, and Cole fired back, moving with a precision honed by years on the frontier. The pup yelped but stayed hidden, watching its new guardian fight with a ferocity that seemed larger than life. When the dust settled, 2 of Jed's men lay groaning in the dirt. The remaining 2 scrambled away, dragging their injured leader with them. Cole exhaled, heart hammering, and leaned against Rust. "Ain't nobody messin' with us tonight," he muttered. The pup patted over, nuzzling his leg. Cole laughed. A deep, hollow sound that carried across the quiet prairie. "Looks like it's just you and me, little fella. We're gonna make this place home." The days that followed were a trial by fire. Cole repaired the fences, tended to the barn, and scouted the surrounding trails. The pup, which he named Bristle, grew fast and fierce, learning to track rabbits and avoid rattlesnakes. Cole taught him the ways of the West, not just survival but loyalty and courage. But the frontier never stayed quiet for long. Word of Cole's $1 ranch spread, and soon he faced more threats: cattle rustlers, land barons with crooked deputies, and rival cowboys who saw the abandoned property as fair game. Each conflict tested Cole's grit and ingenuity, forcing him to rely on every skill he had, and every ounce of trust he'd built with Bristle. Then came the whispers about a legendary outlaw, Blackthorn, whose name alone could send townsfolk fleeing. He and his gang were moving through Silver Creek, leaving a trail of burned homesteads and stolen horses. Cole knew sooner or later, Thorn's path would cross his own, and when it did, it wouldn't just be about a $1 ranch. It would be about survival, family, and the bond between a cowboy and a wolf pup that neither time nor danger could break. The prairie awoke under a pale, bruised sky. Cole Mason rode Rust along the ridge overlooking the $1 ranch, scanning the horizon. Bristle padded beside him, ears twitching at every distant noise, tail flicking with a mixture of excitement and tension. The days since the skirmish with Jed Callahan had been restless but productive. The barn was patched with fresh timber, the fences reinforced, and the corral strong enough to hold a herd. Cole had traded with nearby settlers for provisions and ammunition, learning the subtle politics of survival in Silver Creek and its surrounding lands. Yet the threat of Blackthorn loomed like a storm on the horizon. Stories of burned cabins, stolen horses, and men who vanished without a trace were enough to keep even hardened cowboys awake at night. Cole knew it was only a matter of time before Thorn's shadow darkened his doorstep. Bristle growled low, a warning that made Cole's hand tighten on Rust's reins. There, cutting across the dry grass like a streak of black smoke, was a rider, a lone figure, fast and purposeful. "Blackthorn," Cole muttered, feeling the old adrenaline spark to life. He spurred Rust, moving down the ridge, Bristle racing alongside with surprising speed and grace. The rider didn't see them until it was too late. Cole and Rust burst into the open, dust trailing behind them like a banner. Bristle leapt, snapping at the rider's heels, forcing the outlaw to swerve. With a well-aimed shot, Cole sent the man sprawling into the dirt. The rifle clattered to the ground, and the rider scrambled to his feet, only to see Cole and Bristle advancing. "You've got 2 choices," Cole called, voice hard and steady. "Leave now, or this land'll swallow you whole." The rider froze, then bolted toward the trees at the edge of the prairie, disappearing into the shadows. Cole watched him go, muscles tense. That was just a scout, he realized. Blackthorn himself was coming, and soon. A days passed in a tense rhythm. Cole trained Bristle to track intruders, patrol the perimeter, and even herd the cattle with an almost instinctual precision. The wolf pup had grown, his golden eyes sharp and alert, his teeth and claws now ready to defend their home. One evening, as the sun dipped behind distant mesas, Cole sat on the porch with a bottle of whiskey, Bristle at his side. The horizon was smeared with streaks of fire, orange and violet, and the wind carried a faint scent of smoke. "Storm's coming, little buddy," Cole said quietly. Bristle nuzzled his hand, sensing the weight of the moment. The next morning, the warning arrived in the form of a rider, one of Blackthorn's men, captured near the creek. Bound and bruised, the man spat blood as Cole approached. "You think I'm scared of Thorn?" The man sneered, though his voice trembled. "He'll have your ranch, cowboy. You can't stop him." Cole leaned down, gripping the man by the collar. "Try me," he said simply, "and you'll find out exactly how far I'll go to protect what's mine." The man laughed weakly, then coughed, fear overtaking bravado. Bristle growled, a low rumble vibrating from his chest, a clear warning to anyone foolish enough to threaten their home. The showdown came 2 days later. Blackthorn arrived at dawn, his gang stretching across the ridge like shadows under the sun. Cole rode out to meet them, Rust pawing the earth, Bristle at his side. Blackthorn, Cole called, voice echoing across the plains. This land ain't yours. You'll take nothing. Thorn dismounted, a tall figure in a long black coat, eyes cold as obsidian. You're brave or foolish, Mason. Reckon we'll see which. The duel was fast and furious. Gunfire cracked across the morning air, dust and dirt flying, echoing off distant cliffs. Bristle darted between combatants, his teeth snapping, forcing the gang to scatter and disrupt their formation. Cole moved with the rhythm of the land, sliding behind rocks, firing from cover, and keeping his focus on Thorn. Finally, the two faced each other at high noon, pistols drawn. The wind stilled, the prairie holding its breath. Last chance. Thorn, Cole said. Same to you. Thorn replied, lips curling into a sneer. Time slowed. Both men fired. Cole's bullet grazed Thorn's coat. Thorn's shot missed, embedding itself in the wooden post behind Cole. Without hesitation, Cole charged, knocking Thorn off balance, kicking the gun from his hand. Bristle lunged, teeth snapping, and Thorn fell to the dirt, defeated. The gang scattered into the horizon, never to return. Cole stood tall, chest heaving, sweat and dust mingling on his skin. Bristle nuzzled his hand, proud and loyal, the bond between man and wolf unbreakable. Weeks later, life at the 1000 ranch had settled into a rhythm. Cole tended the land, mended fences, and raised cattle. Bristle became a legend in Silver Creek, known as the Wolf of the Prairie, fiercely protective but gentle with those who respected the ranch. Cole built a small home, planting gardens and carving a life from the rough, untamed land. The sheriff, once wary of the lone cowboy and his wolf pup, now respected them, visiting often for advice on dealing with outlaws. Neighbors came to trade goods, share stories, and learn from the man who had tamed both land and legend. One golden sunset, Cole sat on the porch, Bristle lying at his feet, gazing out over the rolling plains. The wind whispered through the grasses, carrying the scent of freedom and survival. "Gwess, it's just you and me now, partner," Cole said, tipping his hat. Bristle's ears flicked, tail wagging gently. For $1, Cole had bought a rundown ranch. For a lifetime, he had gained a home, a friend, and a story that would be told for generations. A tale of courage, loyalty, and the wild heart of the West. The prairie stretched endlessly, but Cole no longer feared it. With Bristle by his side, he could face anything the frontier threw at him. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows, and in that moment, the Wondudry Ranch felt like the richest place on earth.